Hello, Ashwings. Welcome on in to a fantastic episode where you're going to learn a little bit about what a battle box is. Now, you may have heard that in other TCGs in regards to what maybe a battle box is. Everybody does it kind of different. But effectively, what a battle box is, at least to me and to most of the folks in the TCG space, is that a battle box is a large container that contains somewhere between 8 to 12 decks inside of them. Sometimes they can even be 4. 4 decks I would even consider a battle box, but multiple decks, right? One box contains multiple decks. And the purpose of those are for them to go into one another and battle each other, right? So it's almost kind of like it's almost like setting up Cube, right? But instead it's constructed decks. Constructed decks that you and your fellow players get to go ahead and just pick and choose from. Maybe they want to play this hero or they want to play this hero. You know, it's all the fun stuff of it, right? But normally battle boxes are kind of utilized for these more budget formats, which is always good because if it's a budget format, the decks can more than likely be built faster than most others. And also, if you really wanted to, you could bling out your entirety of your battle box because they're your decks and therefore you to play and go about doing that. So it is a really, really nice way to go about just kind of having everything together in one. Now, the other purpose of a battle box outside of you and your friends and other people trying to get into the game is that you get to do exactly what your stupid little brain wants to do, which is play a bunch of different things. I don't know what it is about TCGs or any game, any RPG I've ever played, but like I don't just want one thing and one thing only. I want all of it. I want every single bit of it. I want every minute trial. I want to be able to figure out what this class does. What does this class do? How does this class work? What do these heroes do? Is this hero power good? What kind of weird things can I do with it? There are tons of different ways to go about this process. And, you know, in Classic Constructed for Flesh and Blood, we do tend to go about wanting to make sure that you have one hero that you play in Classic Constructed and you just play that hero until they LL, because that's how you get better at your hero's lines. You learn your matchups a lot better, and then you get to go about being like a specialist in that specific situation. But with things like Commoner, which is what this battle box is meant for, is you just kind of get to have one of everything, right? Because the decks are insanely cheap to build, and you get to have access to multiple winning decks in the format and the best versions of each class possible to be able to grow your own knowledge base of the game and also just make for a fun environment. You know, I feel something that is always the case with Flesh and Blood is that, you know, the more you know about what heroes do, the better you feel about their matchups into the format. And playing something like, you know, if you in Commoner, you don't really have to worry about being a one-trick pony, right? Switching decks is insanely easy. It's about like $20. You switch decks, you play a new deck, you're good to go, right? So what this battle box is I've constructed a battle box that is about 11 decks right now, because there are 11 classes available in the Commoner format that I am allowed to play. And so that is the overall concept of this video, is to kind of show you guys what a battle box is, what it does, and how it's to be utilized in the future, especially for the Commoner events that I run. If you enjoy this content and wish to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member. Channel members get access to our podcast, The Common Language, a week earlier than other subscribers, as well as emotes, loyalty badges, and any other special member-only content I decide to make. Channel members will also be eligible for special channel member giveaways, so stay tuned for your chance to enter. I thank you all so much for considering to support my endeavors in the creator space for this wonderful TCG, and I hope you all continue to have fun in the Flesh and Blood. Back to the video. What I wanted to do is kind of just go over our decks that we have, right? There are 11 classes available in the Commoner format, and all of them I've built either a winning deck list that has won a commoner gold foil event at some point, or was at least top 8 in the most recent Battle Hardened that was commoner format. This is pretty much based off of most of those decks there. And then everything else that had not topped events or maybe was not represented at a higher level, I instead just made a deck for them, utilizing the cards that I know best from these heroes in the commoner format. So taking a quick look, right, we're not going to go over every single one of these, but I am hoping to get like a master list together, and I'm hoping to do like a playlist for you guys to check out what the battle boxes are and how they go about growing and updating over time, because new commons are going to get introduced into Flesh and Blood frequently. And when they do, we are going to be able to go ahead and update these decks with those cards based on the ones that we get, right? If there's new rare or common equipment that works better for these heroes, we're going to go ahead and try to replace some stuff there. If there are better common cards that come out for a set that work better in some of these decks, we just update them and we kind of keep them going. If there's a hero that works better in a class than any of the ones that I've chosen here, then I usually will more than likely just replace that hero, where the old hero with the new one that works better. And by works better, what I'm looking for is consistency, right? Outside of the fact that the deck does good, like it has good results, the fact of the matter is that we want consistency. We want to be able to take a look at the deck and go, I know that I can constantly do X, right? And I can constantly present X and do the thing the class would want to do. And that is where we see a lot of these choices come in. So, for instance, starting off, we have new with our assassin. So it was a tough choice between It was a tough choice between Web of Deceit and new. And Arachne Web of Deceit is the new assassin from the Hunted. I think they have a lot of potential due to the fact that they have demi-heroes in the format, but I do think that overall, New interacts with her cards a little bit better. She's able to have blues and make them matter. And then on top of it, with a lot of the opponents having blues that they care about in their deck that are really like important to the meta, you can easily go ahead and make sure to utilize those blues to your own advantage when attempting to go through this process, right? If your opponent plays if you're playing against a chain and they have a blue in their banish zone that they were not able to use on that turn, then you can utilize that with New's ability to play it and then get it out of the banish zone, which gets rid of their blood debt, but it means it's one less card for them to use, which is pretty good. You can also have a lot of disruption in Assassin, right? Milling your opponent's deck is really good, so playing cards that mill your opponent's deck is kind of what you want to do. Then, of course, KO. We originally were on Rhinar, but I believe KO just has the more consistent plays overall. We went with a Ball Breaker build and not a Mandible Claw build, but again, that could probably change over time. Terra is probably the best Guardian in the format right now, outside of maybe Oldhim, but I wanted a little bit more of that disruptive on-hit ability of Thump in the deck. And so instead of going for a more defensive build like Oldhim, instead we are doing something like Terra, where it's a lot more aggressive in their playstyle. Kavdeen is a merchant, and believe it or not, merchants, this is the only merchant that you can play in Commoner. But there are no merchant cards that you can play in Commoner. So it's an entire deck filled with generics and just kind of like attempting to do the most damage we possibly can with an all generic deck. And I think it'll be a very interesting deck to build and play at locals. It's different. It's interesting. It gets people understanding that this is a class that exists. Is it a good class? No, but it is an interesting class nonetheless. We actually had a viewer of the channel, Topple. Thank you for this Fang deck that you had built. Really awesome. I was debating on whether or not I was going to go with like Kasai for Warrior, but I do believe that some of the stuff that came out for the Hunted and the power level that can come from getting your fealty up with Fang is actually going to be something that's going to be pretty important when trying to learn kind of what attacking with a weapon and then kind of maybe slinging in some attack actions here and there is going to be important to learn if you're trying to learn what Warrior does. Then, of course, we have Chain, Ira, Icelander, and Enigma, all 4 of these being Commoner Gold Foil winners, right? Battlebox, Chain, Ira, and Icelander all are from the top 8 of the most recent Battle Hardened in Portland. Well, not the most recent, but the Commoner Battle Hardened that occurred in Portland. And this is from them, right? This is the first place Icelander deck, the 7th place Ira deck, I think, and the 3rd place Chain deck. So these are all very effective decks to build. The Ira deck probably has seen some changes since the Hunted has come out, but these 2 decks have certainly stayed the same. Enigma got some changes as well. Enigma most recently took down the Commoner Gold Foil in Memphis. So really cool to see that the Battlebox Enigma deck here is all set up. And then finally, for our last 2, we have Dash, just the OG Dash, not Dash Database. Pretty much just your pure aggro deck here. And then Azalea also kind of having a lot more of that. Don't block, pump up a bunch of arrows, and then swing them for a lot of damage and come in for Dominate, right? So that's effectively our case here. These are all the heroes and these are all the classes that are represented in the Commoner format. And so, again, something that can be brought up about each of these without kind of going into their detail, right, is that if you wanted to get 11 decks together for your local scene, for you to start playing Flesh and Blood and get them started at a very, very cheap level where they don't even need to bring a deck, and if they do want to bring a deck, it doesn't cost a lot, you can go ahead and start building something like a battle box. And you'll go ahead and see, because this battle box is pretty cheap. If we consider 20 bucks, and then we move over to here, 10 bucks, 30, plus 10, 40, plus 10, 50, plus 30, 80, 90, 110, 130, 150, 160, and 180. So if you wanted to assume that outside of buying the accessory to hold all of these decks, which is probably going to be one of those game-genic dungeon sets, 180 bucks for 11 decks, all of them containing great staples and cards for the heroes. $180 gets you an entire battle box. 11 decks for you to share with your friends and locals to get them into Commoner. Hopefully this was kind of an eye-opening thing. Something that I normally recommend is that you get a box big enough to hold all 12 of these decks, and then just carry them around with you when you go to events. If people just want to jam some games of Commoner instead, and they're just like, oh, what do you have in this box? I can go, cool, it's 11 Commoner decks. The best part is that if you really wanted to look at every single one of these, for instance, and kind of like what they cost, some of them have the ability to be blinged out for fairly cheap, but it's still cool to have a fully blinged out Commoner deck. For instance, when you take a look at the pricing for this, right? The pricing for these cards, right, is different comparative, right? So this deck in total costs $10 without all the special fancy stuff, but it does cost $3,000. You can't see it because my thing's in the way, but it costs roughly about $3,400 after shipping to purchase all of these cards in their very rare versions, right? And so, with that being the case, you have the opportunity to at least make them fairly shiny. You know, you can get the rainbow foils for all of these cards and kind of get some of the more cold foil equipment, like a cold foil Blossom of Spring, Blade Reckoners, Aqualapse, and a Reality Refractor are probably not hard to get at all. What it really comes down to is like Null Rune stuff in cold foil is going to be hard to get. Silent Stiletto is going to be easy to get. And then you take a look at other cards like Fate Foreseen and Sink Belows. Those are all going to be expensive to get just because they're harder to find cards. But the rest of this, I mean, like Preserved Tradition, all of your Transcend cards are simply just, marvels. You can marvel out your entire deck and have these in here. Super awesome stuff. Same goes for Azalea, right? Azalea's got mostly things in here that are just like older stuff. So it can probably be found for pretty cheap. I would say that maybe the Snapdragon Scalers are going to be some of the most expensive stuff here. Maybe the Bullseye Bracer. But even still, yeah, Snapdragons being $625 for some cold foil Snapdragons. Outside of that, though, it's about $1,000, maybe $2,000. But the deck total is like $10, right? It's really $5. And it's $10 after shipping. So you'll see that you have the opportunity to also bling these decks out if you want, but it's certainly not necessary. This just allows for that kind of level of expression that you want in a format that is akin to stuff that you might see in stuff like Commander from Magic the Gathering, right? You want to be able to kind of make your deck your own, feel comfortable, add in your cool alternate art heroes or your Marvel heroes or any of that stuff, and then utilize those. The other cool part is that a lot of these young heroes are really, really cheap in their Marvels. So even if you just wanted to play the Marvel version of your hero and have everything else be like non-foil, a lot of these heroes, New, KO, Enigma, and I mean, even, well, not Ira, because I don't think there is one, but Fang even, a lot of these heroes have Marvels, and with those Marvels, you can, like I said, you can bring out your deck. So it's just a fun little thing to do, and I definitely suggest that you do this. I'd suggest that if you're getting into Flesh and Blood or you're trying to build your scene in your local area, and you can get 4 people excited about Flesh and Blood, to go to your locals on any given day, sit down and play Flesh and Blood, you are going to have a good time with something like this. And so the more important part too is that if you ever wanted to utilize something like PvE, which is something that is very fan made at the moment, if you do ever want to do anything with PvE, you have 11 decks here for you to go, you and whoever you want to join with, to get in and play at a commoner level for PvE. So always a great kind of boost to the replayability of these decks. And of course, like I said, with every set that comes out, new commons are released, new rare equipment is released. And so it's always good just to kind of keep an eye on these, see what comes out in new sets, see what changes, and then make your move from there. But hopefully this was a good rundown of kind of what a battle box is. I do hope to have a more of a video constructing my battle box, right? And kind of talking a little bit about what cards I choose and why. And we may even make just like a video on each of these decks and then kind of keep it to this level, right? Where our commoner decks are from our battle box. And then that way we can update those as we see them come in. And we can go ahead and try them into the meta as stuff comes out. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. The battle box stuff is something that I truly enjoy. And for $180, honestly, it might not even be $180 because you probably own most of this stuff anyway, if you're a bulk collector like me. But if you're not a bulk collector, totally fine. Go down to your local game store, ask for bulk. Most people will have bulk, and they tend to give it to you for pennies or for free. Sometimes you'll get it for free. I just have people who hand me bulk at my locals. I kid you not, and like, this is not like some kind of flex or anything, but like when I go to an armory, I leave with about a box's worth of bulk from either the new set or the old set. Like somebody there is opening up packs. They keep only their Majestics and Legendaries and their Fableds if they pull any of their fun extended art stuff. And then everything else gets put in a box and handed directly to me. I don't even need to purchase product anymore. People just hand me cards. And you'll see that even if we go from here, I have a whole thing of cards right here. This is nothing compared to what's behind this monitor. So just keep that in mind, that this is something that you can do. if you are looking to get into Flesh and Blood or get others into Flesh and Blood, you want a cheap, effective way. Shoot, even if you're a local game store and you're looking to run something like this for Flesh and Blood, buying decks like this, getting them together, and then just having them available for your players to, borrow. Shoot, you can, if you're trying to make a buck, you can rent them out for like $5, right? You can pay entry fee for your commoner event be $5, and if they want to borrow a deck, it could be another $5, right? So they play $10, they get a fully customized deck, all ready to go right out of the box, and they get to go ahead and play it. If they're brand new to the game and they don't have anything, just let them borrow it, right? It's just, there's fun little things that you can do with the battle box, and I really think that it's a great way to kind of keep that spirit alive of Flesh and Blood. So that's what I'm hoping to do with this. Keep an eye out for a video where I'm going to actually construct this battle box, and we'll take it from there. So thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate your support. Make sure to hit that like button down below if you did enjoy this video. You can subscribe to the channel as well if you enjoy more commoner content. And also feel free to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about my choices for this battle box. Do you think that maybe my Ranger pick could be different, or my Runeblade pick could be different? Do you want to see a battle box done for Clash? Because I certainly hope to do exactly that as well. But don't worry, we're not at that point yet. I will get to there. But for right now, super excited to see all the different cards and gameplay styles that come out with these heroes. And I feel like as we continue to push forward into 2025, we're seeing more and more people get super excited about Commoner, which is awesome. And I think we see more and more people get excited about other budget formats in Flesh and Blood as well. So hopefully we get to see some new stuff in the high seas, and we just continue to enjoy Flesh and Blood and continue to have fun in the Flesh and Blood. So thank you all so much for watching, and take care. I'll see you all in our next video.